Why does the lighting look so bad here? I got overhead lights on, I got the desk lamp on. 2 reviews in one day. I have seasonal allergies that are just absolutely wiping me out. And my friend Jonathan sent me yet another video to review. And as it turns out, this movie is part of a trilogy of films that Terry Gilliam made that they call the Trilogy of Imagination. I had to look at my notes. So this is completely different than the review that I just put out right before this. We reviewed Matilda. This movie has a runtime of 127 minutes. Terry Gilliam directed. The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, the final installment in the Trilogy of Imagination. The first being Time Bandits, which I think we reviewed here on the channel. I watched it on VHS last summer, and if I did not review that, I apologize. It was this movie felt very similar to that film. And I do have the middle installment, which is a movie that came out in 1985, the year my wife was born, called Brazil. I have it on DVD, but I have yet to watch it, and I probably owned it for at least 2 years. And Eric Idle is in that movie as well. So this movie, John Neville plays this fictionalized German Baron Munchausen, not to be consumed with Munchausen syndrome by proxy. 1988, this film came out, and there's a polarizing story about this film that kind of dominates everything that I read about it. Now that looks way worse. So this film was put out by Columbia, and it was a collaboration between the Germans, the English, and the Americans. And there was some changes going on in Columbia during the production. This movie cost a lot of money to make. It was like $46 million, and it bombed at the box office. It only made $8 million, so they lost over $30 million on the production of this film compared to what they did at the box office, even though it had great critic reviews. And what I read on Wikipedia and blurbs from people that worked on the production of the film is because there was a sea change in the corporate people of Columbia. Some of the other people that had taken over didn't really like the project, and the little blurb that I had read that said that most art house films had like 400 prints distributed in the US. They only let this film have 117 prints. So it had very limited release, and it did not make a lot of money. I enjoyed the film. I really did. It was based loosely off of the books that were written about this fictionalized account of this dude, Munchausen. There was several books written about him dating back to the year 1785, and there was 3 movies made about this guy between the years 1911 and 1979, various takes on it. And then this film came out the year after I was born in 1988. And it was nominated for 4 Academy Awards, mostly for special effects and art direction. It was a treat to behold. Ow! I'm making a video. Away with you.
Why? When you can be done?
I'll be done in like 4 minutes. I try to hit 7 minutes on these reviews. Shoo! So, anyway, where was I? This movie, Terry Gilliam, he had directed all the Monty Python movies pretty much, and then that Time Bandits movie, and The Fisher King, which I have, and that makes sense because I was not expecting Robin Williams to be in this movie, but he has a small role in this movie, and then he stars in The Fisher King, so that makes a lot of sense after I read that, because at first I thought, this is so weird that Robin Williams is in this movie, and it's mostly all these British actors. And Uma Thurman was in it, and she was only like 18 years old at the time. What else was I going to say? My 9-year-old son watched it with me, as did all of my children, but he was the most vocal about it, and he just kept saying, this movie is so weird. This movie is so weird, Dad. And my wife started to watch it, And she got up and walked out and remarked as she walked out of the room, this movie is totally off the wall and bizarre, and it reminded her of the never-ending story, and she just couldn't take it seriously, and she abandoned her watching of this film. So then I was left alone with my boys to watch the movie, and we watched it, and it felt a lot like Time Bandits, the way that just he laid it out, and the whole special effects were very similar, and the characters were similar. It just felt similar to that. It felt very similar to that film. And that movie is kind of like an odd movie. If you're not into like the Monty Pythons and whatnot, this movie is not for everybody, right? Which is into the reviews, so we'll talk about that, right? There's 7 out of 10 on IMDb, so it's kind of like, it's a higher score, but then like I guess some people, I read a meta score, which I never really talk about here, but some people were like 66 to 69% audience likability. Rotten Tomatoes was 90%, Google users were 86%, and shockingly, I am 5 out of 5. I did resonate with one review where they said that it kind of was a slow build. At first, I was like struggling to get into it, and it's like starting off as like a theatrical production on an 18th century play. Loved the lighting, loved the cinematography. It just kind of felt slow to start, but per the other reviews that I read, and the reason I moved it up to 5 out of 5, at first I was like, this is a B movie to me. Maybe I'm in the threes. But then as the movie went on, it did progress, and I enjoyed it. And it was very fanciful, where it would kind of go back and forth between, like, do I know what's happening? Is this reality? Is this a dream? I don't know what's going on. And they kind of left that up to your imagination. So that was really cool for me. And even what did I read here? It says these movies are about a battle between fantasy and what people perceive as reality. So the studio didn't like the direction that they took after they changed the leadership, and they kind of crushed the film at the box office. But it is very well lauded now here in the 20th anniversary edition of the DVD that he sent me in the shrink wrap. It's kind of a very well respected film now, and it should be. It's a beautiful film. It just was a happy ending, and they called it a tall tale, and it really was a tall tale. So I enjoyed it. I recommend it, and I will be reviewing Brazil as soon as I find my copy in my hoard of unorganization. I really should alphabetize my DVDs. Until next time, we'll see you then.